Thank you very much, Ms. Calagrasso. You'll be seeing a lot of me. My name is Justin Zake, and I head the TADAT Secretariat. And I'd like to join the others in welcoming you to this seminar. In about 5 minutes or so, I'll show you a snapshot of the TADAT activities. And it's been a long journey, but I think it's been a very useful journey. One of the things that we look at is methodology. Why TADAT, and what is it? It's internationally supported, as you've heard, and it provides an objective and standardized approach, to evaluating or assessing a country's system of tax administration. It also, provides a common basis for stakeholders to cooperate, and as you heard, the DMD, it has been very encouraging to see the cooperation that's going on between capacity development partners. And very briefly, we'll be going over this, throughout the day, but basically the framework has a hierarchy. At the top, you have 9 performance outcome areas. And below that, it's 28 indicators, then below that, some dimensions. And we'll explain this as we go along. But this is also supported by a very comprehensive guide of about 135 pages. So when assessors go out in the field, all the questions they should ask are in the guide. All the criteria for assessment are in the guide. So I'm aware that a number of tax administration experts are also using this, even though they are not going in for TADAT assessments. That's been very, very useful. Just a bit about our role as a secretariat. We are housed within the IMF, and we ensure delivery of high quality. And this should not be underestimated. It must be high quality. We do a quality assurance of all the assessments that go on around the world. We also manage the TADAT Secretariat, so we plan, implement, and oversee the day-to-day work of the program. And at the end of the day, we are custodians of the TADAT brand. It is trademarked. So, for example, when we are working with Canada on any other offshoots of the TADAT, we have to give some authority so that they can use it. So it is branded, it is trademarked. It would be good, now I need to go back. Can you slide back? As we go along, you'll see a flavor from across the world of what TADAT does, how people perceive TADAT. And we just wanted to show you a few moments from Brazil and how they perceive the TADAT, at least this particular lady perceives the TADAT.
Hi there, this is Luciana, and I'm speaking from Brazil to tell you a little bit about my TADAT training experience. Well, what stands in my mind is the opportunity to know about the tool and the way the diagnostic proposal was conceived, with objectivity and well-defined standards. This gives confidence that evaluation carries out on equal basis for any tax administration that submits to it, and this is as much important as the result itself.
And you'll see many more of those, but people are now getting TADAT embedded, not only in their day-to-day work, but how they, in fact, for this particular lady, she says in her personal life as well, the principles around TADAT. This busy slide is saying that we've done 62 assessments, including 4 subnationals. And as the DMD said, Deputy Managing Director said, we are now seeing strong linkages between the national and subnational tax administrations. Registration is very prominent in here because, for example, in Brazil, there's national registration that goes right down to the subnational level. Nigeria has also started that process. So registration at the federal level and then down to the state level. We're also aware of Ethiopia, which has, from a value-added tax perspective, one system that goes right through to the province level. And then in Uganda, they have started what they call a taxpayer expansion project, which links both national and subnational. So the linkages are coming out very clearly, and they need to be exploited, especially from a compliance management perspective. In one of the steering committee meetings, if you can look at the chart on your right-hand side, that chart was shown, and it says, across all these countries where assessments have been done, the assessors, who are trained assessors, and they take an exam for that, scored the Ds. These are 60 administrations, 41% got a D. Now, what that means is that an A is the best, and the D is something of great concern. So that's 41%. And the basics, 25% of all the assessments. And that says that you're just meeting the fundamentals. Those are just the fundamentals. And of course, B is sound practice, just below an A, which is, meets or exceeds good practice. And in some of the presentations, including one that we held in the annual meetings last year, if you're 65%, if the D is 41 and the C is 25, if you're 60% not well, then that says a lot. And I remember Gerd Schwartz saying, we have a lot of work to do. Indeed, there's a lot of work to do. Some impacts and linkages between the TADAT and other partners and tools, and we'll hear more about these as we go along. Under the Revenue Mobilization Thematic Fund, Guatemala has identified the TADAT was conducted, and it's being used by the RMTF in order to further to plan the next steps. And then on the whole, from the RMTF perspective, the TADAT is becoming very prominent as a performance indicator. So this is being based, whatever they're doing is partly based on the TADAT framework. In Jordan, Deloitte Consulting, and we have a representative from Deloitte Consulting USA here, are using the TADAT results in order to help the authorities in their reform plan. And in Peru, even though they did very well, there were some gaps, and they're using the results again in order to further their reform plan. So they're saying, we may have done well, but we don't want to slip. Training. Ms. Grasso has talked about training. Training is becoming very important. And in the design of the TADAT initially, it wasn't thought of as something that's going to be prominent. But two things. One, countries are saying, in order to have a meaningful assessment, we need to know what we are getting into. So there's a lot of demand for training, in-country training, so that people can understand what they're getting into and what the TADAT methodology is all about. And you will probably hear later on that for officials in the tax administration, it has created some safe space to discuss reforms referring to a guide or some good practice standards. So that is something that will be coming up. And, conversations between junior staff and senior staff are becoming much more objective and standardized. We have trained about 1,500 who have taken the exam and actually passed it. Out of those, about nearly 400 are assessor grade, and out of the assessors, about 121 of them have been involved into that assessments. We will be distributing this and also posting all these slides on our website. But what is also very interesting, since we started tracking our web presence in 2016, there have been about 35,000 people that have accessed our website. And we see about 4,000 to 5,000 who constantly come back. And that's the kind of community of practitioners that would want to leverage their plans to develop, actually implement it, TADAT Connect, which is a community of practice, so that people across the world can exchange ideas, exchange experiences, and basically not reinvent the wheel. So that, to us, is a very important metric. And you would see that the majority are from the US, who accessed in the last 1 year or so, Brazil prominently, and there are others. 197 countries, including South Sudan, Cuba, and so on. The only country that we have not seen is Turkmenistan. That's the only one we haven't seen. But our footprint, or the TADAT footprint across the world, is becoming very strong. And I think capacity development partners should be very happy that this is getting traction, not only from an assessment point of view, but from people who want to know about TADAT and good international practice. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much, and we'll get to the next level. Thank you.